I'm Chef Laura. Welcome to New Cook. Today we're going to be making crispy tofu with asparagus and mushrooms in a peanut sauce. So before we get started, just a few things to review. The first is you want to make sure you have all your ingredients ready to go, or your mise en place. So let's take a look at what we have today. We have our peanut oil, we have our extra firm tofu, our vegetables, our shiitake mushrooms, and our asparagus. All of our ingredients for our peanut sauce, our cornstarch that we're going to use to coat our tofu, and then peanuts, lime, and sriracha to garnish. So got everything ready, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drain our tofu. So hopefully you have an extra firm tofu, which is great for cooking and stir frying because it doesn't crumble, but it does have a lot of moisture in it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drain this to get the moisture out. So I'm going to go over to the sink and drain my tofu. Put our tofu on a triple layer paper towel, and we're going to take about half a teaspoon of kosher salt and sprinkle it on top, and that's going to pull out even more of the moisture. So we'll just let our tofu's drain there. Now let's come back and prepare our sauce. So you're going to need a bowl, a mixing bowl, and a whisk. So we have our 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, our 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of creamy peanut butter. If you don't have peanut butter, you can use soy nut butter or tahini if you have a peanut allergy. And then honey. I have 2 tablespoons of honey. And again, you can substitute that with agave or maple syrup, depending on what your preferences are. We're just gonna take that and give that a nice stir. So what we want to do is we want to emulsify this. So we need to make sure that we can combine the liquid ingredients with the solid ingredients. So you're going to definitely going to have to use some arm strength to get that going there. Okay, so you want it to be nice and smooth. So we'll put that aside. And next we're going to prep our vegetables. So I have here 4 ounces of shiitake mushrooms, which I actually cheated, so mine are already pre-cut. But if yours aren't cut, you want to destem them and you want to cut them to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. Next is our asparagus. So what you can do is you want to get rid of this reedy end, so you can just snap that off. And then what we're going to do is we want to cut this on the bias. So that means on a 45-degree angle. So you're just going to take your knife and you're going to come in and you're going to cut on the angle so that you have these beautiful pieces that look like that. What you can do is you can just grab a bunch of asparagus and you want to line up the ends, chop off about 1 inch, and then again we're going to cut them on the bias. And now we're going to come over it with our peanut oil. We're going to put 3 tablespoons of peanut oil in a nonstick pan. Hopefully you have a pan that's nonstick, or mine's kind of like a half and half. So we're going to turn that into medium high. And we're going to let that heat up and put 3 tablespoons of our peanut oil in the pan. You can use vegetable oil if you don't have peanut oil, but this gives it like a nice, kind of an Asian flavor, which is makes it even deeper, richer in flavor. And it also has a high smoke point because we are going to be cooking it at a high temperature. So I'll let that heat up and take my tofu, and what I like to do is cut it in half. So now I have 2 planks, and then I'm going to cut it into 4 strips, and then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to cut it into 1-inch cubes. So they're all about the same size. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. I'm going to get another paper towel. I'm just going to blot it dry. Okay. And let's just leave it there for a minute while we check on our oil. We want it to be shimmering. Not quite shimmering yet. You can tell when it starts to shimmer, you'll see like little lines in it. So let's get our tofu, and let's take a shallow dish like this, and we're going to put our tofu in there and we're going to coat it with the cornstarch. So work gently because this tofu can fall apart. So you want to make sure that it kind of retains its shape. Just give it another blot so get it as dry as you can. And then we're going to take our cornstarch and we're going to sprinkle that on top to coat it. And then you can just get right in there with your hands. And we're just going to coat all that tofu. Make sure you get each piece nice and coated. If it does fall apart a little bit, it's okay. Not the end of the world. but try to keep them as firm as you can. I'm going to put my tofu in, and I'm going to make sure that there's some space in between the pieces. Okay, so you want them nice and crispy. You're going to take them out with a slotted spatula. And if you don't have a slotted spatula, you can just use your tongs. They're still going to cook a little bit, but they're nice and crispy. So you're going to leave in about a tablespoon of the peanut oil. And actually, I think I used up most of my peanut oil, so I'm going to put a little bit, just a little more back in, maybe another, just a half a tablespoon. And now we're going to sear our vegetables. I'm going to grab my asparagus and my mushrooms. And we're just going to cook these until they get nice and brown, which probably take about 6 to 8 minutes. And, you know, you could definitely use a wok if you had a wok. You could cook it in there. That would definitely stand up to the high heat. But this pan's working fine. Key is you just want to keep things moving and keep it hot so that they don't steam, but they sear. Okay, so our vegetables are nice and sauteed, so I'm going to go put them on a platter. Okay, so I'm just going to let this let that cool down a little bit. Leave those there. And now I'm going to come over to my sauce. So make sure that your sauce is nice and combined, so it's all emulsified. And what's going to happen is we're going to thicken it up in the pan, but it might get a little too thick, so make sure you have some water on hand just in case. I have like a little water here. Okay, so let's come on over to our pan, and we're going to just thicken up our sauce. So we want to keep stirring that. And you'll see it's going to start getting nice and thick. Now sometimes it gets a little too thick. As I can see, it's starting to turn into, looks like a peanut butter consistency. So I'm going to just add a little water and keep stirring. You want it saucy, not gloppy. It's the only way I can describe it. Not too thick. So this is looking like a pretty good consistency. It's going to get a little more water. So now I'm going to put my tofu back in and give that a stir and get that nice and coated. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. See how it's absorbing that sauce really nicely. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to pour it over the vegetables and get all that sauce in there. You can even use a spatula, but this spatula is nice and thick, so I think it's good. Okay, and combine all that together. Okay, so now let's take our beautiful dish and let's plate that. So I actually have some cauliflower rice that I made, so I'm gonna put that in the bowl. And I'm going to take some of my tofu mixture. I'm going to get a bigger spoon. And I'm getting a lot of those great vegetables in there. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. I'm going to take some of my peanuts, put those on top, give it a little squirt of lime, and a little sriracha, depending on how spicy you like things. I like it really spicy, so a little sriracha. And for finishing touch, I'm just going to give it a little salt. And there we have it, our crispy tofu with asparagus, mushroom, and a spicy peanut sauce. Hope you enjoy. And if you like this recipe, you can find more recipes as well as sign up for a virtual cooking class on our website and Instagram. So keep on cooking.